It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org from Louisville Public Media.
Consequence Podcast Network. And welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's the interview series presented by WFPK and WFPK.org. Consequence and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you as always for making your way here, for checking out the series. Hit that subscribe button, of course, so you can keep up with all the interviews that I put out every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 3 interviews a week to keep you updated on your favorite artists and discover those new ones at Spotify, Apple Podcast, NPR, WFPK.org, Consequence, YouTube for the video versions, or anywhere you get your podcast from. You can subscribe to Kyle Meredith With. Don't forget to also give the series a rating, leave a review. Always appreciate that so much. We've had some great guests on lately, including actress Anna Camp, who you'll know from the Pitch Perfect series, most recently from Black. We talk about her new short film / pilot called Neodome. Chris Robinson of the Black Crows was here. Director Johan Renck, he's behind the new Netflix film Spaceman, starring Adam Sandler and Carey Mulligan. Luke Hemmings of 5 Seconds of Summer dropped by, as did actor Nick Robinson, to talk about the Millie Bobby Brown starring Damsel. Tom Payne, he's in the new Kevin Costner movie called Horizon, an American Saga, as well as the Blumhouse horror film called Imaginary. We talked with Joe Keery of Stranger Things and Fargo fame, Neil Finn, the lead singer of Crowded House. Just an example of what you get when you subscribe to the Kyle Meredith With podcast. That's me, Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Big Thief lead singer Adrianne Lenker. She's back with a new solo album called Bright Future that we're going to hear all about. She'll tell us why she wanted to record much of the album during the morning hours. We'll hear about the magic of including the room noises in the songs and being attracted to older classic sounds. Adrianne's going to go on to discuss why the 1998 film Deep Impact had such a deep impact on her 7-year-old self, how she accepts sadness as a gift, and what she learned about herself from the songwriting class that she recently taught. All that and more as we talk about the album Bright Future. It's Kyle Meredith with Adrianne Lenker.
Okay.
Bright Future. It's a beautiful album, and I think I was talking with some radio folks outside, and I'm certain every single one of us was destroyed, just in a puddle by the time it was over, and I mean that in the best way. I mean, it's such a mood. Maybe that's where we'll start, and I think that's part of the story too. The studio, where you were, everything. I can hear things, the way the piano sounds. What were you going for?
Definitely for things to be audible. But yeah, I think it changes every record. I don't ever quite know what I'm going for, is the real answer. I kind of just going as I go, and it's letting it take its own shape, kind of trying to get out of the way to the best of abilities. But I think that part of what you're hearing is the intentionality of Philip Weinrobe, who engineered and recorded the album, to get the most natural feeling, like you're in the room, like you can hear all of those little things, like hearing Josephine sigh or my dog scratch at the door, or all the little happenings. Nothing was, we didn't try to bury anything. I wanted it all to be there, like the listeners just sitting right in the room with us.
It's almost like the piano, it sounds old. It sounds, and there's a song, Cell Phone Says?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it's so interesting because the idea of a cell phone and this very modern thing and the melody that you're using, it sounds very old.
Yeah.
And this kind of, do you find that you go towards a sound or types of sounds?
I'm drawn to certain things, but I don't know if there's a type. I mean, kind of that classic feeling, there's a classic sound to some of the melodies, and Is that where
Yeah.
when you're talking about cell phone? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Like that old kind of old song feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be deeply embedded because it comes out of me a lot. Something very like almost just like an old trusty, like an old faithful song or something, and it sounds like so many other things, but also not exactly. I don't know. But then, putting the very modern technology in the song gives it a nice little edge.
No, I do. I love how they speak to each other. What was maybe it was in the press release. You talked about daytime energy. Somebody talked about like it's a record with daytime. Like it was purpose. It sounded like it was purposely done in the daytime. If so, like, what were you trying to get out of that? Like, what does the morning lend that the night doesn't?
I think morning music is special, and there's something about when my brain isn't awake enough yet to really kick in and start shouting things, like making noise or evaluations. But actually just kind of waking up and like first thing, like wandering into the music room and just picking up an instrument even before speaking, and just letting the sleep and the nighttime, the dreamland sort of just slowly dissolve into the rising sun and feel the warmth of the morning. And I think there's an energy there that feels special.
Are lyrics and things already brought in, or do you do like live writing in those moments? Or
Oh, I mean, I bring in a lot of the lyrics, and then I also write some songs as we go. Usually in every session there's a couple songs that emerge, brand new songs like with new lyrics. That happened during this session too.
I thought I was a morning person, but reading about you doing that, I was like, I think there's some things I couldn't pull off in the morning in that way. And that's
You
being
might be
creative.
surprised.
Yeah, maybe. And we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back. It's Kyle Meredith with Adrianne Lenker. Sadness as a Gift. It's a song, but it's a statement. There's another album coming out by another artist, pop artist, and their album is called The Glorification of Sadness. And I was just thinking about it, like almost as a balance. And
Wow.
yeah, and I would love to know where you come from as it, because sadness is a gift. I understand. I think there's so many different angles you can look at that, but also thinking about it in the way we do glorify sadness, especially in artists.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to my therapist a few years ago, like going through a lot of grief and sadness, and just kind of like coming to terms with like facing that sadness and like feeling it in its fullest. And I took a lot of comfort in the idea of sadness is love, because the love carves into you and creates this well, and every single thing that we come into loving in this life will die. Everything we are ever given will pass. Everything we ever love, every person we're ever attached to, leaves. Everything. It's impermanent. And so there is a sadness. There's an inherent sadness to love. And I think that to truly be able to love, you also have to like hold the sadness. And when you're able to experience sadness, it's like this crystal, like this jewel, if you let it be, that is this indicator of how deep your love is. Because for all the sadness you feel, like for the absence of something, it's only showing you how great its presence, So it's kind of like appreciating. It's kind of just about love and sadness as a gift, as an indicator of love.
I've gone through a lot of that sort of thought process. The weight that's lifted, and I'm not trying to project. This is my own feelings about it. when I decided that in the end, not a lot of it matters, you know, and recalling the Flaming Lips lyrics, you know, that everyone one day will die. So you tell them that you love them. And there is something beautiful. I mean, I'm only echoing you here. You know, there's just something beautiful about that.
Well, I don't know if I would say that none of it matters.
Right. And again, that one's mine.
Yeah. I mean, but that's interesting too. I'm not putting that idea down either because I don't know. Right. But I mean, I feel like I would more so frame it as like what matters. Sure. I mean, what matters at the end? You know, what is it that matters? Does it matter? I mean, what is matter? And where does it go? And what is energy? And what animates our bodies? And what is this immeasurable stuff that we are? And, you know, what is the meaning of all this? Where the hell are we? Like, I really, honestly, sometimes have these moments where I'm just like, whoa, wait, what is this planet? Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? How did we get here? And I guess these are very old questions.
Yeah, sure. But you've got a great way to at least make them melodic and poetic, you know, these thoughts, you know, if you choose to. But I do, and that's, I think you're exactly right. That's exactly what I'm getting to. If I think nothing matters, it allows for the space of, so what do we put our importance in? What do we put our love in? You know, family, etc. You know, etc. I love how that plays out. And looking at some of these other songs, Red House, the way it drifts like a story almost, like it feels like it could just, you could drift away in that song in the most beautiful way. But I did want to ask, and maybe this is too specific, you know, that line, when I was 7, the first film I saw made me scared. You don't ever name the film. I was wondering if it was the specific film.
Yeah, was it a specific film?
Yeah.
That I watched when I was 7 years old. Deep Impact.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was about a comet hitting the Earth, and for years I was so scared that a comet was going to hit. Like, I remember it shook my reality.
Yeah.
Because it was like, you know, at 7 years old, seeing that and suddenly having the thought, asking an adult, could that really happen? Is that a real thing that can happen? And them saying, well, yeah, it could happen. I was just like, oh, so at any minute, like at any second, like you're saying. And I remember being so scared of a comet hitting the Earth that, like, whenever nighttime would come, I would just be really scared for years. Like, at some point that fear dissipated, but it was like a whole chapter in my life. I thought of this whole world ending. I thought of dying unprepared, because you see all the people holding each other and facing their deaths as the comet comes, and I hadn't thought of those ideas. And then suddenly, you know, you can't unsee things. So it was part of my reality. It was, yeah.
I don't think as parents we know how we affect kids in those moments, because I wouldn't have thought deep in. My son tells me years later, he's a teenager now, and he says, yeah, when I watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I thought was a funny movie, did the same thing. That the world could be exploded, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, the stuff that just wrecks us, you know, that we don't see coming. I'm sure I have those moments in my life, maybe the never-ending story in a way. But I don't know a lot of people that talk about Deep Impact. Sorry, I'm just kind of ruminating on that one.
I'll never forget it.
And we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back. It's Kyle Meredith with Adrianne Lenker. Fool. The guitar riff, it feels circular. It feels difficult.
Like it feels
complicated.
Oh.
But at the same time, you know, there's this playfulness about it all. Mm-hmm. I really would just love to hear the creation of this song, because I love hearing it and all the little stray noises that kind of go about it.
Yeah. I wrote that guitar part just for fun, and the song came during a time when I was going through some relationship stuff, and I don't know what to say other than that. Like, I love guitar. I love exploring guitar, and so I just love playing, and it's a playful guitar part because it was fun to write, fun to play. And then Phil brought this rubber bridge guitar that makes the strings sound all dead, like that sound you hear. And that made it even more fun to play because it sounds really bouncy So, I mean, it's kind of how
Yeah.
just playing.
Yeah. And then Vampire Empire, of course, that's, we get in the released world, we get the big band version of it. And now we get to hear this much more stripped back, much more personal version.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not the first instance that's happened with you. There's always kind of the two sides. Do you find that you hear one in your head when you think about it? Is one dominant for you in moments like this?
One version?
Yeah.
Well, the first recording was this one, actually, from Bright Future. And no, I always just play the song new in the moment. It's always just new in the moment. Like, it's living, and I can mix and match stuff, and we could play whatever feel we feel like. But so I don't really, I mean, I guess when I'm with my band, I'm used to doing that kind of like dunk 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 dunk, whereas like the other feel is more that like, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't really like hear one. We could do anything. The song, yeah. They're just versions.
When you hear like Dylan, have 7 different versions of a song, that's always like, how do you choose? Like the same things, right? Like when you're a songwriter, like when is a song finished? When you're a painter, when is the painting finished? And
do you have an answer to that?
No, of course I don't. I don't have an answer to that. But that's I find it fascinating. I really do. Like if you have multiple versions, like how do you know which is the one? If you have to pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you didn't have to pick. You released them both. But if you have, like, how do you know which is the one?
You just go with your best gut feeling, I guess. And in a way, I think nothing ever has to be finished, but also it feels nice to finish or wrap things up. So, but you can finish a version of something and then 10 years later decide to make a new version of it. Does that mean the song was unfinished that whole time? I don't know. I think things are just always fluctuating and changing. Ourselves, every part of existence, like, is moving.
And then there's a relationship with the fans because, as listeners, people will get so attached to some version. And, and then nothing, and I do, like, you have Demoitis. I have Demoitis. That first version you hear is always going to be the best version. Oh, but that's the one I connected to,
Then they make their own versions.
Right.
Like fans, like covers. Then they can, if they want to do something differently, they can. And that's the nice thing about a song, too, is it exists outside of the writer. It becomes everybody's. And it can travel through time. It doesn't even have to be... I mean, think of how many songs we know, like nursery rhymes, that we don't even know them from a recording. We just know them from hearing them. Someone's version of it, our mother's version of it, our friend's version.
I was reading that you hosted a songwriting class recently.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, like, it's sort of like in this moment, does that give you an opportunity to put a mirror back? Because I'm taking assumptions here, like you're teaching people how your process, or at least you're telling them your process. Does that open up something that you don't usually look at with that kind of magnifying glass? And what's that like?
Yeah, definitely. It was cool. It was, I learned a lot during that process of creating the classes and the lectures and figuring out what each topic would be for each week. Because at first I just kind of thought, how am I going to talk about songwriting? It would be like a few sentences, Well, you sit down with your instrument and like pray and wait for a song to come, and then hopefully it comes, and sometimes it doesn't, and just kind of collect them along. Like it could have been like a 5-minute class, but I don't know. It was cool to find out that there are actually these tangible tools that I've picked up, so many tools I've picked up along the way from teachers, people who have taught me, things I've absorbed without even realizing, looking into the process and finding out there's actual steps you can take to work on craft. And like you can never choose, or I don't think you can ever like force like a gift. Like when a good song comes, it's usually a gift. And you can't really force that, but you can prepare yourself to receive the gift. And it was cool to work with people and help help them feel awakened in some way to their own creativity, or that at the most, and at the least maybe just give us some interesting stuff to think about or play with for a few weeks, you know?
And it was more than just it'll happen when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it also ended up that too.
Right.
At the end of the day, it was like, yeah, and also all of this stuff is cool, but it'll also just happen when it happens, you know?
I'm so glad these songs happened the way they did. Seriously. What a magnificent record. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My thanks to Adrianne Lenker. The new solo album is called Bright Future. Thanks to you, of course, for checking out the episode. Again, please do hit that subscribe button while you're hanging around. That way you'll get all the interviews that we send out every single week. You can grab us at Spotify, Apple Podcast, NPR, WFPK.org, Consequence, YouTube for the video versions, or anywhere you get your podcasts from. Subscribe to Kyle Meredith With. After that, head over to WFPK.org. It's where I do a show Monday through Friday starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. You get 4 hours of classics from the 80s and 90s. You get the best in new music. There's bonus interviews, lots of music news as well. One of my recent shows featured some favorites from Tori Amos, Prince, White Reaper, Steppenwolf, Tom Petty, Sam Phillips, Death Cab for Cutie, Wilco, Paula Cole, REM, Nine Inch Nails, Bruce Springsteen, Bakar, Wilder Woods, Wolf Alice, The Martinis, Beth Gibbons, Betty Severt, Mary Timony, Paul Weller, The Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Jelani Area, The Muffs, Brittany Howard, Casey Musgraves, and my interview with actor Aldous Hodge from Leverage or Black Adam. We talked about his new movie, Marmalade. And that's what you'll hear every weeknight, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on any of the social media sites. The address is always the same. It's at Kyle Meredith. So I do hope you like and follow along. And that does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time. Consequence Podcast Network.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org, from Louisville Public Media.